the moment we could access the internet and see game prices globally, Australian gamers have been frustrated with the comparatively high price that we have to pay. And while we understand that shelf prices are different due to shipping, rent and wages of bricks and mortar stores, we're still left wondering why we have to pay so much more for digital content.
I'd been approached, in actual fact, by constituents who talked about a range of different products. And one of them was the cost of games.
Spurred on by concerns from his constituents, Ed Husick led an inquiry by the Federal Parliament into why digital products cost more in this country than other regions.
So the inquiry is being run by the House of Representatives Standing Committee on Infrastructure and Communications. It received a request from the Communications Minister, Stephen Conroy, to look at basically, are there differences in prices on hardware and software between here and other countries? If there are differences, why is it the case? And then to try and look at, well, what can be done about the issue.
Look, it's well overdue. Gamers have known about these issues for a long time. I guess it's taken the Productivity Commission and also a growing awareness of people getting online. I mean, you're really 5 seconds away from being able to identify a price difference these days once you jump onto the internet.
All the companies involved were asked to make submissions to sort of, to say, hey, why is it that you charge this way? Is it that you have to, does the software have to be altered to work in Australia? Is it that you need more support mechanisms? What's going on? And the answers were not very convincing. Nobody was able to demonstrate that they needed to make those differences, or that, you could come up with a reason why Photoshop was twice as expensive.
Unlike in the US, a company isn't required to attend hearings for inquiries such as this one. And unfortunately, we saw the likes of Apple, Microsoft and Adobe exercise that right.
Apple made a submission, but only on the grounds that no one else could see it. Microsoft made a submission, but wouldn't actually front up in public to defend it. Adobe didn't make a submission at all. But the message that sent, I think, it's fairly contemptuous. It's like, oh no, we don't feel the need to justify these pricing differences.
But at the end of the day, we'd get a lot clearer answers and a lot quicker answers if we had the major software guys sitting there. I should say that we're actually quite open to the evidence. So, we'll change our minds if people can put forward convincing evidence that there are totally legitimate reasons why these games cost more in Australia, but we've seen nothing so far to suggest that.
One group watching this inquiry very closely is the retail industry.
I don't like the government telling me what to do and when to do it, so having an inquiry is good, and there may be some good outcomes. It's always very difficult to actually legislate to fix perceived problems. In a free country, the market economy often sorts out the issues.
I'm certainly not interested necessarily in us having a rush to regulation on this issue. And absolutely I want the market to be able to sort this out. But the market's stuffed up because in effect they're trading off their market power.
There's no doubt that, when it comes to looking at the pricing for games, the publishers, ultimately they're the ones who set the barrier. They say, we want to charge this, and that's what we're going to charge. And they will say, we want to sell this for this price on Steam in the US and this price on Steam in Australia. There's no reason they can't sell it for the same price if they want to. You do see titles that come out on that model. So clearly, it's not something inherent to the model itself. It's a decision that the publishers have made. And in some ways, I think that just reflects habits and history.
These discrepancies in the pricing of digital content really became apparent when our dollar hit parity with the US. But should the Aussie dollar fall in the future, there is the danger that this campaign might become irrelevant.
I think people understand that currencies vary. It's just at the point when they don't vary, or when they happen to match up, when we match up with the most important currency, at that point it becomes really clear how ripped off we are. But I don't think that should conceal the fact that we were getting ripped off even when the exchange rate was taken out of the equation if you looked at this 5 years ago. So the problem is bigger than the exchange rate.
I think any likely movement in the Australian dollar is not going to have anything like an impact that's going to justify the 50% price difference we've identified in IT hardware and software.
In 2012, research showed that Australian gamers still prefer to buy their game in store, with 43% opting for physical box copies versus 22% purchasing digital copies.
People in the sector say it to me on the quiet, that we've priced on the basis of what the market would bear, and in fact some people from IT companies have said the same thing and then tried to justify it and say, well, everything costs a lot in Australia. Well, you don't price on the basis of what a Big Mac costs or a car costs or clothing costs. You price on the basis of what your product is within the market.
They are cheaper overseas, but there's other issues. There's economies of scale, like the American population is 312 million and we're 7% of that population. So to distribute games in Australia, which is the same size as America, there are obviously higher costs and there's higher wages in Australia generally than America and higher rents in Australia. So that would be part of the reason that games are dearer in Australia.
After the success of the R18 campaign, the pricing of digital content is the next issue that needs addressing, and luckily we're starting to see some traction.
Just the fact that it's been brought to public attention and that it's been highlighted is going to be the most important thing, because arguably there are people who don't realise this is going on. They think, oh well, I'm just buying this, I'm just getting it through the iTunes store, I'm just going into Steam. They haven't realised that what they're being directed towards is different purely because of where they are.
What you're having is a generational change. That is, as people in government have gone, like, you know, you're getting people who've actually got games themselves. I've got an Xbox and got a console myself. People have become familiar with the issue and as a result are much more conversant, able to deal with you know, the type of issues at hand.
I think we will pay less in the future, regardless of what the inquiry comes up with, because this is the trend that we have seen certainly with all entertainment media, and digital distribution is making that even more pronounced. So prices are going to keep coming down, but we're going to go through a lot of ugly speed bumps getting there, and this current pricing situation is a really visible example of that kind of speed bump.